All right, third pay stub. Gonna get 4 total. Third, I have 2 numbers that I think people are gonna find very, very interesting. I'll get to that in a minute or two. First, I want to say this is the day 44 and 45 video. Didn't go in either day. I know, shocking. Not on the schedule yesterday, not on the schedule today. Today is Tuesday, the 9th. Just things are slow. I think a lot of people have left town. The main event's going on at the World Series. I feel like that's the end of most people's summer. Play that. When you bust out of that, go home. We have a few days left. Aria has a few days left. I think MGM ended yesterday. I think the Nugget ended like a week ago. Don't know about Venetian or Wynn, but I was looking at some of the tournament schedules and a few things have ended. Just kind of slow. I actually was waiting yesterday and today to see if they got busy around 4 o'clock. Yesterday was a horse tournament. Today was a 8-game mixed tournament that started at 4. You could register up to 2 hours in advance. So at 2 o'clock, like between 2 and 4, they would know if they were getting more players than they had dealers for, and never got that email that said it's so busy, we need people to come in. So I could have still waited at 6, chose not to. Looks like I'm going to get 46 of the 50 days on the clock, but I want to talk to you about the pay stub. A few interesting numbers. I will get to those 2 very important numbers. The first one, time on the clock. That was correct. I think Orleans had me on the clock for 7 minutes more than my accounting. Awesome. 7 minutes over a 2-week period is a negligible difference. There was actually a day I wasn't sure. I kind of looked away as I swiped my card at the end of the day, and I didn't see if it accepted or not. And I also didn't hear the beep, and it worked out. There's a piece of paper, you write your stuff down manually, time in, time out. In case there's a clock malfunction, someone can look at that sheet, put it in manually, so it either went through fine or there was an error, but then someone using that sheet of paper corrected it manually. So the time was good. Still something weird about the overtime, which I don't really care about. It's not much. I guess I could talk to HR and ask like just what the rule is so I'm aware, but it's weird because it's not a number such that I'm only getting 40 hours. Like I'm only getting the weekly overtime beyond 40. It's a number in the middle. Like there's just getting weekly overtime and then there's weekly and daily. It's in the middle of that. So it's like I'm getting some daily overtime but not all. I don't know. Something's going on, but whatever. The first big number that I think everyone's interested in, how much I got in tournament tips, because I know how many hold'em downs I dealt, I know how many mixed game downs I dealt in the tournament, and then I see a number in the pay stub, you got paid this much for dealing tournaments, and in the first paycheck it was about $160 more, in the second it was about like $295 more, it was $777 more than my accounting. My only guess for what could be causing that is that the third pay period was the time that included the main event. So that was a huge prize pool. First place was 200 grand. If there was no deal, there was a deal. It got down to 2 players and they made a deal. First place took home 162,000. So like the mixed game tournaments are usually around like $8, $9, $10,000 to first place. Our hold'em tournaments, the huge ones on Sunday, the Sunday special tournament, usually around like 30,000, 34,000, something like that. Some bigger non-Sunday no limit hold'em tournaments in like the low 20,000s to first. So this was 162,000 paid to first place. My guess is just that a lot of people at the final table left some large tips. I don't know what else would be the reason for that, but that was a lot of extra. So $777 extra, and that means after the first paycheck, that extra money, which was tips for tournaments, but then minus never getting the orientation pay, minus some overtime hours missing, I felt like I was ahead $100. In the second pay period, doing the same thing, extra in tips, but less overtime hours, felt like I was $250 ahead or so. And then in this one, the tips minus the overtime hours I didn't get, I feel like it's about $700 ahead. So 100 plus 250 plus 700, it's about $1,050 ahead of what I expected, just based on what we're guaranteed for our tournament downs. Another number that's very interesting is what I got ultimately looking back, or I guess for you in the camera, looking back, if you're going left to right as like a timeline. So some tournaments do it differently. I hear Win, the dealer swipes in his card, his or her card, at the table, and they know exactly how many minutes you've been dealing, and you get paid by the minute. Different tournaments have different rates, so it changes a lot. It's not one set number. You're going to get paid X dollars per minute for the whole summer. It changes, but I hear that's how Wynn does it. There are a few people who work Orleans and MGM. I was talking to one of them who said MGM didn't even guarantee anything, but just after a few paychecks, it's coming out to around 17 or 18 per down. And I don't remember if we discussed a difference between Hold'em and mixed game downs, or if that was just what this dealer was getting paid for everything, you know, included as one. No idea how Aria does it. I don't know of any Orleans dealer who's also dealing Aria. I don't know of any Orleans dealer who's also dealing the Nugget. So no idea how they do it. But the way we were told at Orleans, no limit Hold'em tournament, guaranteed $15 per down, which is about 30 minutes, and any game that's not Hold'em guaranteed 20. So I counted all the Hold'em downs I dealt so far from my first day, May 26th, through the final day of the third pay period, July 4th, counted all the mixed game downs. So I have each of those two numbers, I have the total downs, and I know from the 3 pay stubs the sum I've gotten paid for tournaments in those first 6 weeks dealing at Orleans. So I'll spare you the math. Through 6 weeks, May 26th through July 4th, Hold'em tournaments, we were told we were guaranteed 15 per hour, and the number's right here. So like going forward, like when I was dealing on that first day a no limit Hold'em tournament, like, okay, this down, I'm gonna get $15 pre-tax. But now that it's in July and I'm looking backwards, this is how I'm thinking about it. Looking back, what was I actually getting paid with the tournament tips included? Hold'em tournaments were guaranteed at 15. Looking back, I was actually getting paid $17.96 per down. For the mixed game downs, we were guaranteed $20 per down. I was actually getting paid $23.95 per down when I count in all the tournament tips. And, you know, the weighted average, I've dealt way more Hold'em downs than mixed game downs. There's just way more Hold'em tournaments, and they last longer, and there are larger fields, so it's a weighted average. And if you don't want to think about two different things, Hold'em, non-Hold'em, and like, I have to think about both things if I want to think about this number. Maybe you're thinking about dealing Orleans next year, maybe somewhere else. I'll get it down to one number for you. The weighted average of those two numbers, so it has to be somewhere between $17.96 and $23.95. Of course, it's going to be a little closer to $17.96 because it's just way more Hold'em downs. The weighted average, $20.08. So looking back through the first 6 weeks of work at Orleans, every time I dealt a tournament down, regardless of what the game was, every time I dealt a tournament down, I got paid $20.08 with the tips included. Most of it is the guarantee from Orleans, and some of it is tournament tips from the players in the tournament. So there you go. 2 big numbers. Got $777 extra dollars in this paycheck due to tournament tips in the third pay period. And looking back after 6 weeks, what did I get paid per tournament down? $20.08 pre-tax. So there you go. One more pay stub left. It is going to be, the numbers are going to be a little smaller. It's only going to be 8 days of work because the series ends midweek, and I also took yesterday and today off. So it's only going to be 8 days actually on the clock. The numbers will be smaller, but still, I'll compare it one last time, see what's going on, and give you that that final number. Looking back, what did I get paid per tournament down? And in a totally separate video to just compare cash and tournaments, look forward to a video where I need to wait for the series to end, so I can't even make this video for another week or so. But I will compare pre-tax, what I made per tournament down and what I made per cash game down. All that coming up in the future. And remember, rice is a spoon food.